Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the gracious, ever merciful. Peace and blessings upon you, dear viewers. Welcome to tonight's lecture organized by the Talim UK Department, UK. We'll start our program as usual with the recitation of the Holy Quran. May I request Mohid Hamid Sahib to do the recitation and its translation in English, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The verses that I'm going to recite today are from Surah An-Nur, which is the 24th chapter of the Holy Quran, and the verses are from 56 to 58. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وعد الله الذين آمنوا منكم وعملوا الصالحات ليستخلفنهم في الأرض كما استخلف الذين من قبلهم وليمكنن لهم دينهم الذي ارتضى لهم وليبدلنهم من بعد خوفهم أمنا يعبدونني لا يشركون بي شيئا ومن كفر بعد ذلك فأولئك هم الفاسقون وأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة وأطيعوا الرسول لعلكم ترحمون لا تحسبن الذين كفروا معجزين في الأرض ومأواهم النار ولبئس المصير. Now, translation of these verses. I seek refuge of Allah from Satan the accursed, in the name of Allah, most gracious, ever merciful. Allah has promised to those among you who believe and do good work that He will surely make them successors in the earth, as He made successors from among those who were before them, and that He will surely establish for them their religion which He has chosen for them, and that He will surely give them in exchange security and peace after their fear. They will worship me and they will not associate anything with me. Then whoso disbelieves after that, they will be the rebellious. And observe prayer and give the zakat and obey the messenger, that you may be shown mercy. Think not that those who disbelieve can frustrate our design in the earth. Their abode is hell, and it is indeed an evil resort.
Jazakallah. Tonight we have the pleasure of being joined by Kalim Tahir Sahib. He has had the honor of serving the Jamaat in various capacities, currently serving as one of the National Secretary of Rishta Nata Department. As always, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions towards the end of the segment to the speaker. Please type in your questions relevant to the topic. It gives me great pleasure to hand over to Kalim Tahir Sahib to deliver the lecture.
Jazakallah Shakil Sahib. Allah bless you. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Khilafat is that brilliant beacon of guidance and unity, that glorious fountain of blessings, and indeed the source of spreading the light and blessings of prophethood. It is my privilege and honor to be presenting a short discourse on the topic of what does the love of Khilafat demand of us? The best definition of love is having a deep bond based in commitment, respect, trust, and acceptance. I would like to start by posing a few questions to my audience today. What does the love of Khilafat actually mean? Is it sufficient to simply say that we love Khilafat, or is more required of us? If so, how can we prove our love for Khilafat? So, Khilafat provides the water of life for our spiritual nourishment and rejuvenates our faith of those who tie a bond of love with Khilafat. However, light can be of no use if one chooses to keep their eyes shut. Similarly, despite the guiding light of Khilafat being present in the world today, it cannot be of any benefit to a person unless one opens their heart and establishes a living connection of love and loyalty with it. Hazur Akhtas, Ayyadallahu Ta'ala bin Nasril Aziz, explains this subject in these words. The mere establishment of this institution does not hold any significance unless there is a relationship between the Khalifa of the time and members of the community based on sincerity, loyalty, devotion, and love. And such a bond can only be created by Allah the Almighty. No individual or human endeavor can create or sustain such a bond. It is this very bond that is the guarantor of the unity and progress of the community. Ladies and gentlemen, the true love compels a lover to always strive to make their beloved happy. Thus, it is the unique bond that millions across the world have with Khilafat that sets it apart. In fact, the level of connection and love with the community, which the community has for Khilafat, only adds to the veracity of proof that this Khilafat is indeed the fulfillment of God's promise. While describing the connection with Ahmadis, which Ahmadis have with Khilafat, Huzur states, the relationship that members of the community have with Khilafat is possessed by those who have been Ahmadi from birth, as well as those who have recently joined, including children, youth, men, and women, and also by such Ahmadis who live far away and have never seen the Khalifa of the time. Yet all these people have excelled in sincerity and loyalty, and they continuously try to excel further. Whenever they receive a directive from the Khalifa of the time, they try to act upon it. They express their love and relationship in such a manner that one is truly astounded. The attachment with Khilafat demands complete obedience and submission from us. Hazrat Muslim Maud anhu once said in this particular respect, you cannot attain Allah's succor and help until you completely follow your Imam. If you desire to get Allah's help, then remember it can be achieved only by ensuring that you are standing up and sitting down. You're, you're, you're stopping and marching. You're speaking up and observing silence are all under the command of the Khalifa. But as is the case with any true relationship, it cannot be a one-way street, especially when it comes to leadership. What people desire is proximity and accessibility, a response or acknowledgement of some sort. So, as our beloved Hazur describes, this is exactly what makes Khilafat unique. Hazur says, which leader or dictator is there who keeps a personal connection with each of his citizens? On the other hand, the Khalifa of the time maintains a personal connection with Ahmadi Muslims from amongst every race and from all parts of the world. It is Khilafat alone that cares for and feels the pain of every Ahmadi Muslim and prays for them. It is when the love from both sides meets, when the bond between a Khalifa and members of the community is established, that the promise of God, the prophecy of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and the vision of the promised Messiah al-Islam are fulfilled. Khilafat is indeed the very rope of Allah to which God has commanded all of us to hold fast. That would be the wise thing to do because there is nothing that compares to love between a Khalifa and his people. And no leadership or love in the world can compare. It is, in fact, many ways the primary proponent for Ahmadiyya Muslim communities' continuous surging success. Huzur Ayyadallahu Ta'ala bin Nasir Aziz states that before sleeping at night, there is no country of the world that I do not visit in my imagination, and no Ahmadi for whom I do not pray while sleeping and whilst awake. I am not doing any favors because this is my duty, and may Allah enable me to ever increase in assuming my responsibilities. The only reason I've said this is to make it clear that there can be no comparison between Khilafat and other worldly or secular leaders. Hence, in today's world, there can be no love truer than the love between a Khalifa and his people. I would like to share a few anecdotes and incidents where Jamaat members have shown their unconditional loyalty and obedience to Khilafat, and how these actions attracted the favors and blessings of Allah the Almighty. While I was researching for this topic, I could not help but notice that the best and most moving examples of utmost devotion to Khilafat and love for Khilafat have indeed been exhibited by Khulafai Ahmadiyyat themselves. So I'll start with a few anecdotes from the life of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I, Raziyallahu Ta'ala anhu. Once a leading citizen of Bhera wrote to him that he was ill, and that as he had been his family physician, he desired him to visit him and give directions with regard to his treatment. He wrote back that um, Hazrat Khalifa Awal, Hazrat Maulvi Nuruddin Sahib wrote back that he had migrated from Bhera and was now permanently settled at Qadian and could not move out or could not leave Qadian without the permission of the promised Messiah, alayhi salatu wasalam. The patient then wrote to Hazrat Mirza Sahib begging him to direct Maulvi Nuruddin Sahib to visit him and prescribe for him. On being so directed, Hazrat Maulvi Sahib went to Bhera, visited the patient at his residence at the edge of the town, examined him, prescribed for him, and without entering the town or meeting any of his friends or looking at the old family mansion or partly built construction he had designed, he returned to Qadian, as if Bhera had never been his hometown. On another occasion, during one of the promised Messiah Islam's visit to Delhi, Hazrat Mir Nasir Nawab Sahib radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who was the father-in-law of the promised Messiah alayhi salam and was of the accompanying party, he fell ill. The promised Messiah alayhi salam sent for Hazrat Maulvi Nuruddin Sahib radiallahu ta'ala anhu from Qadian, and he directed to dispatch a telegram to Hazrat Maulvi Sahib summoning him to come to Delhi. So whoever drafted the telegram, they simply wrote down, "Come immediately." Hazrat Maulvi Sahib Razila Ta'ala Anhu received this telegram while he was in his clinic. He stood up immediately and he he's and he left for Batala just as he was, without any money in his pocket. At Batala railway station, a wealthy Hindu citizen requested him to go home with him and examine his ailing wife. He said he had to catch the next train for Amritsar as he was on his way to Delhi and had no time to go into town. The anxious husband offered to fetch his wife to the railway station, which he did. And Hazrat Maulvi Sahib Razillah Ta'ala Anhu examined her and at the end of that consultation, he wrote out a prescription of medicines for her. The husband was so gratified that he slipped away and brought him a ticket for the railway journey to Delhi and made him a present of a substantial sum of money as his fee. The next morning, Hazrat Maulvi Nuruddin Sahib radiallahu ta'ala anhu presented himself before his master in Delhi. Hazrat Maulvi Nuruddin Sahib had extreme love for the promised Messiah Islam, and it used to brim out on every occasion in a moving way. Pay attention to this moving account. Once a member of the community requested the promised Messiah Islam to suggest a suitable match for his daughter. On his doing so, the father had qualms in acting upon the suggestion. When Hazrat Maulvi Nuruddin Sahib radiallahu ta'ala anhu heard of this, he was indignant and exclaimed, "Were Mirza Sahib to direct me to give my daughter Amatul Hai in marriage to the son of Nihali, who was the sweeper woman, I would have no hesitation in carrying out his direction." A worldly wise person, without questioning the sincerity of his affirmation, might esteem such devotion as the folly of a blind faith. But Maulvi Nuruddin Sahib, love his beloved master knew no bound. It is worthy of note that Amtul Hai Sahiba later, when she grew up, married Hazrat Sahibzada Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad Sahib, the promised son. In 1927, at the occasion of the annual convention, the Jalsagah space became too small due to unexpectedly large number of guests. When Hazrat Muslim Maud Radhiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu came for the inspection, he was unhappy to see the lack of preparation and capacity in the Jalsagah. Hazrat Mirza Nasir Ahmad Sahib, Rahimahullah Ta'ala, who was only 18 years of age at that time, worked through the night with some other young volunteers. This overnight Herculean effort extended the capacity sufficiently. When Hazrat Muslim Maud arrived in Jalsagah the following day, he was extremely pleased by this achievement. Once Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad Sahib Rahimahullah Ta'ala was asked by the third Khalifa to go to East Pakistan, even though he was told that no seats were available on the next plane leaving for his destination. He packed up and left for the airport. There was a long queue of at least 20 people in front of him who wanted to catch that flight and were told that the plane was fully booked. Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad Rahimullah Ta'ala still was undeterred in his resolve and remained at the airline counter at the airport. Eventually, it was announced that the plane had departed. Everyone left upon hearing this announcement, but Hazur remained there as he was sure that the plane could not leave without him. Then, out of nowhere, a message came through that there was one seat available for anyone with a ticket, and thus Hazur was able to board that flight. May Allah grant us all the same degree of resolve and trust in responding to every instruction or guidance provided by the Khalifa of the time. Ameen. Once someone saw our beloved Huzur Hazrat Khalifatul Masih al Khamis Ayyadullah Ta'ala bin Nasir Aziz before his Khilafat that he had spontaneously bowed down respectfully while receiving a phone call. And this is, as I've said, is before his Khilafat. So this gentleman inquired who he was speaking with. Huzur replied that it was Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV, Rahimahullah. And that was his show of respect, even on receiving a call from the Khalifa of the time. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih the First, Raziyallahu Ta'ala anhu, once advised the community that we should attach ourselves to Khilafat, just the way carriages of a train are attached to its engine, and then witness how we overcome darkness every day. Once a large mob attacked an Ahmadi house in Pakistan where there were only ladies inside the house. The mob threatened them and ordered them to leave the house. There was only one voice that replied that we are staying inside our house on the instruction of our Imam. You can kill us or loot all our possessions, but we won't leave the house, nor would we denounce our faith in Ahmadiyyat. There was such a strength and conviction in that voice that the mob turned away and the troublemakers dispersed. These scenes of love and obedience of Khilafat made a bitter opponent of the community once say, Mirza Mahmud has such devoted followers who are ready to sacrifice their lives and wealth at his slightest indication. And what do you have except for abusive and foul language? When the scheme for building a mosque in Copenhagen, Denmark was launched, Ahmadi ladies responded to this call in such a spirited manner that a non Ahmadi lady who was witnessing the scene expressed, we have only witnessed such zealous response at times when people are grabbing money, but never when giving away their money. It is Ahmadi ladies who have taught us today that the true excitement can only be displayed at the time of giving money. So these are the traits of Ahmadi women which stand them apart in the world from everyone else. Similarly, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Asani Raziyallahu Ta'ala anhu once described the example of a poor and old lady from Qadian. She could only take small steps when walking due to weakness in her old age. She approached Huzur and placed 2 rupees on his hands. She was a Pathan lady and could only speak a few words of Urdu. She told Huzur that her shawl, her trousers, her shoes, and even her Quran were all given to her from Baitul Mal. She had no possessions, yet whatever she had, she was willing to sacrifice it in Chanda. This is the love of Khilafat that has breathed a new life in otherwise spiritually dead people. The sacrifices of Ahmadi ladies are not limited only to financial contributions. They have also sacrificed their emotions and lives in obedience and love of Khilafat. Hazrat Muslim Maud ta'ala anhu sent Maulvi Rahmat Ali Khan Sahib to Indonesia as a missionary. The financial capacity of the community was very limited in those days. There was only enough money to arrange for his one-way trip to Indonesia. Consequently, Hazrat Maulvi Rahmat Ali Sahib remained in Indonesia for 26 years without his family. His children did not remember him, and they used to ask their mother, where was their father? Finally, Jamaat decided that he should be called back permanently. Upon hearing this, his wife went to see Hazrat Muslim Maud ta'ala anhu and said, with great anguish, that she had spent all her young life with steadfastness. She bore all the hardship for the sake of Allah while raising her children. Now that she had become of advanced age and her children had grown up, there would be no gains for calling back her husband. She said it was her desire that her husband should be allowed to continue serving in foreign lands so that she could also proudly say that her entire married life was sacrificed for the sake of her faith. Once someone asked a very well off member of the community, who also belonged to a very dedicated family, that how come his family had been blessed so much. He responded that it all started with a show of unwavering obedience to Khilafat. A property dispute arose between his father and some other relatives in response to the property where this family was residing. This dispute was escalated, and one day his father received a message from Hazrat Khalifatul Masih the third, Rahimullah, that he should immediately vacate the house. His father accepted and followed this directive literally. The family immediately packed up their possessions and left the house. They had absolutely nowhere to go. Suddenly, they came across an abandoned house with its front door wide open. So his father took the family inside and offloaded all their luggage as well. As soon as the owner of this property found out about these squatters taking shelter in her house, she came around and started shouting at his father. She demanded that he should immediately vacate the property. However, when his father told the landlady that his family had taken refuge in her house for the sake of following a directive from Khalifatul Masih, she calmed down and agreed to rent out the house to the family. From that day forward, the family's fortune took a turn for the better, and Allah blessed them immensely for showing that unconditional obedience to Khilafat. I would like to emphasize one point, that these stories are not only from the past. The devotees of Khilafat live today. They live among us. New tales of showing deep love for Khilafat are being written every day. The question, however, we should all ask ourselves, if one is being written in our own homes too. Last year, a most devoted servant of Ahmadiyyat, a true follower of Khilafat, and an exemplary Waqf-e-Zindagi, Sayyid Taleh, was elevated to the status of Shahadat. While paying tribute to Sayyid Tali Ahmed, Huzur Ayyadullah Ta'ala bin Nasr Aziz said, "He was a precious gem that has departed from us. His level of love and devotion for Khilafat was such that even some who have deep rooted knowledge of faith do not possess it. His devotion to Khilafat was such that even in his last moments, he was constantly expressing his love for Khilafat." Hazur goes on to mention that a few years ago, he had written a poem in which he expressed his love for Khilafat. He started the poem by saying, "I love my caliph more than the others," and ended it by saying, "I love my caliph, but he'll never know." To this, Hazur responded, "O my beloved Taleh, I tell you that even before your final words, I knew that you loved and adored Khilafat. This love was evident from your every deed, your every moment. When you stood before me with a camera in your hand, and even when you met me without your camera, this love was evident from the sparkle in your eyes and from the unique expression of joy on your face. Your every action would demonstrate your eagerness to express the love you had for Khilafat." Hazur also mentioned that his
Assalamu alaikum. Apologies, I think there's a technical error and we lost our speaker. We'll try and see if we can get him back. Um, in the meantime, I just like our viewers, I think we're back on our.
Yes.
Yes, sorry, apologies. I think there was
Sorry,
some
Spencer.
technical
I
error.
don't know what happened.
Yeah, there was some technical error, I guess. Please kindly continue.
Actually, ठीक है,
Yeah,
Jazakallah.
yeah,
I'll continue.
okay.
So I was mentioning about Tale Shaheed, and I don't know where you lost me, but I'll continue where I was. So Hazur was mentioning, that even though in his poem he had mentioned that I love my caliph, but he'll never know. And Hazur said, even before um, he was told of his final words, he knew that he loved and adored Khilafat. And this love was evident from every one of his actions and deeds. And your every moment when you stood before me with a camera in your hand, and even when you met me without your camera, this love was evident from the sparkle in your eyes and from the unique expression of joy on your face. Your every action would demonstrate your eagerness to express the love you had for Khilafat. Hazur also mentioned that his ever present thought was to eagerly await any guidance from the Khalifa of the time so that he could immediately fulfill his words. At the start of his work, Hazur advised him to read the 5-volume commentary. I don't know if any one of you have tried, but most people take years to read this. But Tale finished it within a few months. And even Hazur was amazed when he reported back that he'd completed the reading of 5-volume commentary. Hazur Anwar Ayyadullah Ta'ala bin Nasir Aziz said that once in a meeting, he told missionaries to offer tahajjud for at least 1 hour a day. So even though Talib was not a missionary, but he knew that he was a life devotee. And so he too did his best to implement this instruction. At times he would appear tired during the day, as he had woken up early to try and fulfill this instruction, which was not even directly addressed to him. So, respected audience, I hope and pray that these anecdotes have inspired you to further excel in your sincerity, loyalty, and obedience of Khilafat, as these have inspired me. We should ask ourselves, are we as quick and as eager to listen to and obey any instructions from our beloved Imam, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, Ayyadullah Ta'ala bin Nasr Aziz? Do we listen eagerly to all Hazur's Friday sermons and addresses, striving to inculcate Hazur's guidance in our lives? I know just preparing this, um, very humble lecture, it has taken me many hours of preparation. And here, Hazur actually delivers an hour-long khutbah, a sermon every week. And then he addresses us on many occasions during the year. And he uh, spends a lot of time and effort in preparing those addresses for us. The question we need to ask, are we reciprocating his love for us by at least listening to all these sermons and addresses? If you reflect, you'll notice how Hazur has been continuously reminding us to focus on our salat, prayers, fasting, recitation of the Holy Quran, improving our conduct in domestic affairs, and joining the institution of wasiyat. We can revolutionize our spiritual lives by responding to all these calls from our beloved Imam. This would transform our lives and that of our progenies. May Allah enable us to strengthen our bond with Khilafat so that our claim of love for Khilafat is not just mere words, but is really backed by our actions and deed. May Allah so ordain. Ameen.
Jazakallah Kalim Sahib. Jazakallah for such a comprehensive lecture. I mean, you highlighted the relationship of Khilafat and the demands of the love of Khilafat. I'm sure the viewers must have found it very knowledgeable. There's lots of comments in terms of how they found this topic very enabling them to be very inspiring. And people are commenting on how nice it was listening to all these references. One of the question is, do you have any personal experience or incident which can relate to Khilafat, just to inspire our viewers, whether you've got anything you would like to share and talk in terms of the Khilafat yourself? I know you've given other examples and highlighted a few things, but is there anything you would like to share on a personal level?
Um, Look, I feel very humble to share any of my examples, but I share one with you. So, um, while we were having a dinner, um, I believe it was occasion of one of the Majlis Khudam Nehmdi Ashura, that all the National Amla members, they were serving the attendees of Shura, the delegates of Shura. And Fahim Anwar Sahib, who was the president of Majlis Khudam Nehmdiya in those days, he was trying to point out to different members of National Amla and trying to introduce them to Hazur. And this was not face to face. And he's told me that when he pointed out towards me and told me, I'm son of a missionary, Hazur told him that yes, I know children of missionaries, and I know who he is and who they are. So I found that very inspiring. That me, who doesn't even have a regular connection with Hazur, but it is Hazur's love for those serving Jamaat, that not only he remembers them, he even remembers the children. And I found that very, very inspiring.
Right. Jazakallah for sharing that personal experience. Um, Dear viewers, thank you for watching the program. Please let us know, the Talim team, what lectures would you like us to cover, or are there any particular topic you wish to recommend this speaker? Please email taleemonline@ahmadiyyauk.org. Thank you for watching these online lectures. Please do not forget our Urdu lecture next week on Monday and English lecture on Tuesday at 8:15, the usual time. Now, can I request Kalim Tahir Sahib to lead us in the silence prayer, please?
Kindly join me in silent prayer. Ameen.
Amen.
Jazakallah for having
Thank
me.
you. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.